Like, what's the Jo mission?
Okay.
Where do you want to be in 10 years?
So, for me, as I've said, property is a very human experience, right? And to break it down and to kind of give you a bit of history of how I've got to that perspective, is like, in property there are two kinds of investor. The first one is one that rolls up their sleeves, gets involved, and just wants to be that property investor. They want to be on the project, they want to be managing those properties, they watch Homes Under the Hammer continuously, they're obsessed with all of that stuff, right?
They're painting, right?
They're painting, they've got powder on them when they're on site, like there's builder's dust everywhere, like they're just in it, right? And they want to live and breathe property, like they want to leave their job to do it. Okay, then you've got on the other side, which is like, they don't really care about the bricks and mortar, they just want to be a facilitator of a lifestyle that they want, right?
Yeah.
And there's no right or wrong. And I kind of sit somewhere in between the two, I think, which is why this is where the human side fits into it, because I've realised that it isn't actually anything to do with property, it's to do with who you become as a person. And my background is performance. Like, it's all about, like, when I was a kid, we were just talking about this a minute ago, like, you know, it was all about, you know, stage school and dancing and all of that stuff. And I ended up doing that to, like, half a PhD level, right? But it's the one thing I've suppressed. Like, I've just pretended it was nothing to do with my property journey at all. I just pretended it wasn't part of me, that it didn't show up in my everyday property investing business. But what I've realised recently is everything that I do in property, right? So my big mission, and the thing that I end up helping people with the most, is making people perform their best that they possibly can do in property. So whether you are that property investor who just wants to roll up your sleeves and get involved, how do you show up, you know, and perform to the best of your ability? And whether you're that person who just wants it to facilitate a lifestyle, but you've got to kind of really put the work in initially before you get to that point, how do you perform to the best of your ability? And that sounds so loose, because performance is like...
It's everything.
Well, for me it is, because
right?
people hear performance and they think you're playing a role, it's fake. It's not. Performing means two things. Performance is like to get a task done, first and foremost. You know, you perform a task. The second thing is that you perform it to a certain level, like you perform it well. And whether that's raising finance, or whether it's doing a refurb well and having an awesome relationship with your building team and managing the trade, or whether it's like forming those connections with your letting agent, or whether it's kind of, you know, convincing your mum and dad to invest in you when you've never bought property in your life before, and you're thinking, because you've got mum and dad's money, you want to invest it responsibly and not, you know, all of that stuff. And or you're going to a networking event and you're meeting other people and you absolutely hate talking to human beings. Like, how do you do that confidently? And so that's what people often come to me about. And so my mission is for people to perform all they are confidently in property and support them with that. And the rest of it, the portfolio, is just doing its thing in the background and building up over time.
So we're two people sitting in a room together.
Yeah.
Okay. We've never met each other physically before.
Yeah.
We have no real... Our connection is through what we do for a living. We're both enigmas. Yeah. So in what we do. So I'm a plumber, right? That's if you were to tag me, you would say, oh, Ettan, yeah, the plumber guy, right? But how far can you stretch the definition of plumber? How far can you stretch a definition of a landlord or an investor? Yeah. You are shining in what you're doing and attracting people to you through what you're doing. You know, what it attracted me.
Roped you in on LinkedIn like this. That. Literally lassoed you in.
Like that. So we're here to talk about pain points. Not as an investor, take that hat off for a minute, but as a landlord.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. What frustrates you the most about being a landlord?
Do you know, I think the thing that keeps me up at night the most is worrying about, have I thought of everything? Because it's like, property is just this ever-changing world, and as landlords we're getting all of these new changes come in, which is great, by the way.
The ICRs and...
all of that, massive change recently, right? So I want to make sure when I go to sleep at night, I always talk about being a swan investor, sleep well at night. And the thing that keeps me up at night is like, are my tenants safe? Are they safe? Have I thought of everything? Is the property spec'd out to the best it should be? You know, is everything, like, all these new changes, is my property satisfying all those changes? And even though I know there's a gas safe coming up on my property next week, has my landlord got it in the calendar? Has my letting agent got it in the calendar? Because I've got all of those in my own calendar, just in case. Because the thing is...
Because the buck stops with you, right?
Listen, you just took the words right out of my mouth. It's not about whether the letting agent's doing it or not, because if I gas my tenants, that's on me.
you're the one guy.
If I fry them, that's on me. So those are the things. and knowing that, this goes back to the trust thing that you were saying earlier. Like, if you've got people that you trust, and you know your letting agent is just on this, then it's, you know that it's taken care of. But I do worry about, have I thought of everything? Is everything compliant? What if legislation changes and then I have to rejig everything? And do I have the right people in place to support my business?
Well, that's what I would worry about.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a look at the ceiling kind of dude. I'm usually thinking about really weird, abstract ways to kind of do plumbing and heating. But yeah, I mean.
Listen, I love boilers. You and I could probably talk about boilers to the cows.
I'm a big lover of boilers.